नमस्कार दोस्तों, मेरा नाम है डॉक्टर गौरव। मैं आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत करता हूँ अपने यूट्यूब चैनल जिसका नाम है दयाल एंड सन्स क्लासेस। आज की आज की इस वीडियो में हम क्वांटम मैकेनिकल मॉडल ऑफ एटम को डिस्कस करने वाले हैं, जिसमें हम देखेंगे श्रोडिंगर वेव इक्वेशन कैसे श्रोडिंगर वेव इक्वेशन का डेरिवेशन हम देखेंगे। चलिए शुरू करते हैं इस वीडियो को। क्वांटम मैकेनिकल मॉडल ऑफ एटम, क्वांटम मैकेनिकल model of atom, quantum mechanical model of atom. This model was given by Erwin Schrödinger. This particular quantum mechanical model was given by Erwin Schrödinger, Erwin Schrödinger was a physicist. He was basically a physicist. He was a physicist. He gave this quantum mechanical model of atom. He based his model on two concepts. First one was de Broglie's principle. First was the de Broglie principle, and the second was Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. He based his model on two theories, de Broglie principle and this Heisenberg uncertainty principle. In de Broglie principle, the de Broglie principle was given by the scientist called de Broglie, and after him this principle was known by his name for his achievement. Now, what is stated in the de Broglie principle? De Broglie principle stated that every moving particle has a wave nature associated with it. Every moving particle has a dual nature. Which moving particles such as electron, proton, or an atom, or a molecule, or ion that are present in a matter have certain wave form or wave function associated with them. And he related the wavelength of that wave function that is associated with particles to their momentum by the relation 1 upon lambda equal to, that is the momentum is equal to h upon wavelength. He related, or you can say he derived a relation between the wavelength associated with the waveform that is associated with that particle and the momentum which a moving particle has due to its particle nature. So it associated the particle nature of the atom or the moving particle with its wave function by this particular relation, in which he said that momentum will be equal to h upon wavelength. Momentum, if let's say we have particle has a mass m and is moving with the velocity v, then the momentum will be mv is equal to h upon lambda, where lambda is the wavelength. So from this, what was known that there is some kind of wave function that is associated with a moving electron. From this theory he took that point. Now next we come to Heisenberg principle. What was stated in Heisenberg principle? That it is impossible to determine exactly the position and the velocity of the moving particles simultaneously at the same time. In other words, that is, in this concept is what is stated that there will be uncertainty in the position as well as in the velocity. That is, if you are able to determine the position with the exactness, then you cannot predict the velocity of the atom. velocity of the electron. But if you predict the velocity, if you are able to calculate the velocity of the electron with exactness, but then you won't be able to tell the position of the electron with the exactness, because at the point where you recorded that velocity, the electron has moved from that position now. By the time you recorded, the electron has left that position. So it is difficult to predict the position of the electron, right? And he said, and he given a relation between the uncertainty of position and the uncertainty in the position. He said that delta x into delta v will be greater than equal to h upon 4 pi, or you can say h cut by 2. H cut is equal to h upon 2 pi, or delta x into delta v is less than equal to h cut upon 2, or h cut upon 2. I hope this is clear. This much is clear. Now, so what conclusion did he draw from these two theories? Based on these two theories, he came up with a model in which he stated that, what did he stated that? He stated that it is only possible to predict the possibility of finding an electron moving with a velocity v at a given point of time in a given area around the nucleus. What did he say? That it is only possible to predict the location, or it is only possible to predict the probability of finding the electron moving with a certain velocity around the nucleus at a given point of time in a given area. And the area where he found out, where he got, and he said that where the probability of finding and the position and the regions where the probability of finding the electron is maximum is called the orbit, and the region where the possibility of finding the electron is minimum, that position he called a node. That region he referred as nodes. Now, what are nodes actually, or I will discuss that entire concept in a separate video when I discuss about radial nodes and angular nodes. So don't worry, I will take that part in the coming videos when I discuss about radial nodes and angular nodes. So now let's come now on this. Based on this model, he gave an equation. What was that equation? Let's see that equation first. Based on his quantum mechanical model, he gave an equation for determining of the probability of finding the electron. For determining the probability of finding the electron in a given region. What was that? Del square x upon, del square psi upon del x square plus del square psi upon del y square plus del square psi upon del z square plus 8 pi square m upon h square e minus v psi equal to 0. What equation he gave is d square psi by dx square plus del square by del y square plus del square by del square z square plus 8 pi square m upon h square into e minus v psi is equal to 0. This equation after him was known as Schrodinger wave equation. This equation is known as the Schrodinger wave equation in 3 dimensions, because we have here 3 dimensions, x, y, z are the coefficient coordinate 3-dimensional coordinate x, y and z, and this is in Cartesian functions. This is the Cartesian form in terms of Cartesian coordinates. This is the 3-dimensional Schrodinger wave equation, The other form for this three-dimensional equation is del square psi plus 8 pi square m upon h square e minus v psi is equal to 0. One form is this, or h psi equal to e psi, or h psi is equal to e psi. There are three forms of this equation. One form is del square psi plus 8 pi square m upon h square e minus v psi equal to 0. Second form is h operator h into psi is equal to e psi. This h is called h operator, and this is also an operator. Del square is also an operator. This del square is known as Laplacian operator. This is known as Laplacian operator, and it's equal to del square by del x square plus del square upon del y square plus del square upon del z square. And this operator del square is called Laplacian operator, and this del square is equal to del square by del x square plus del square by del y square plus del square by del z square. And this h is called Hamiltonian operator. It's called Hamiltonian operator, and its value is equal to minus h square upon 8 pi square m del square minus v, plus v. This is called Hamiltonian operator, and in Hamiltonian operator is equal to minus h square upon 8 pi square m del square plus v. Psi is the wave function, m is the mass of electron, E is the total energy, and V is the potential energy. I hope I am clear with this equation. I repeat once again. Here psi is the wave function associated with that electron, and its differentiation is taken twice with respect to x, twice with respect to y, twice with respect to z square, and it plus 8 pi square m upon h square into E minus V. Psi is equal to 0, where E is the total energy of the electron, V is the potential energy of the electron. Another form is del square psi plus 8 pi square m square. Del square is Laplacian operator and is equal to del square x square plus del square y square plus del square z square. And h, third form is h operator psi is equal to e psi, where h operator is Hamiltonian, is called Hamiltonian operator, and its value is equal to minus h square upon 8 pi square m del square plus v. And here again E is the total energy. E is the total energy here. I hope this much is clear. Now let us see the derivation part. Now we are going to discuss the derivation part. Now in derivation, now let's see how to obtain this Schrodinger wave equation. How can we derive this? Now for deriving the Schrodinger wave equation, there are two ways. Actually there are two forms. So one more thing I want to tell you. The Schrodinger wave equation has one more form, that is the time dependent form, and the form which we have discussed just now, equation that we have discussed just now, is the time independent Schrodinger wave equation. Please note that somewhere that in front of the previous equation, that is a three-dimensional Schrodinger wave equation, and time independent. Time independent. There was no term of time there. So it was time independent. Okay. Now let us discuss the derivation of this time independent one. In order to derive the equation, what was done was that Schrodinger compared the electron wave to the standing wave, and the standing wave equation is given by the standing wave equation is psi is equal to a sine of 2 pi x upon lambda. 2 pi x pi x upon lambda in x direction. In x direction, or you can write it as psi x. Wave function psi in x coordinate is psi x is equal to a sine 2 pi by lambda x. I hope this much is clear. This is the wave equation for the standing wave equation. You compare the electron wave to the standing wave equation and then what it does. Now mark this equation number 1. Now differentiating this equation 2 times with respect to x. Now we differentiate this equation with respect to x 2 times. Differentiating equation 1 with respect to x twice. 2 times here twice. What do we get? What do we get? Del psi by del x is equal to a 2 pi by lambda cos of 2 pi x upon lambda. What do we get? A 2 pi by lambda cos sine 2 pi by x can be differentiated it once. Why? Differentiation of sine is cos, and it is in the form of sine n theta, and the differentiation of sine n theta is n cos theta. Now again differentiating it, we get del xi square is equal to del x square is equal to a. I can write it as 4 pi square upon lambda square sine 2 pi x upon lambda. I hope I am clear. What we did is, on first differentiation we got a sine 2 pi by lambda into cos 2 pi by x, 2 pi by lambda into x. When we differentiate it again, the cos differentiation of cos is minus sine theta, cos theta is minus sine theta. Since it is in the form of cos n theta, so it will come minus n sine theta. So by differentiating this cos term, what we get is equal to minus a 4 pi square upon lambda square. Why 4 pi square? Lambda 2 pi by lambda is already there. 2 pi into 2 pi give 4 pi square. Lambda into lambda will give lambda square. So 4 pi square upon lambda square sine 2 pi x by lambda. Now if you see this sine 2 pi by x and a, if I rearrange it, what I can write this equation as minus 4 pi lambda into a. I can write this equation as this also. I can write a this side, and I can rearrange this equation in this form also. D square psi square x square equal to minus 4 pi square upon lambda square into a sine 2 pi x upon lambda. Now this a sine 2 pi by x lambda is from equation 1, it is psi. So what do we get? Del square psi by del x square is equal to minus 4 pi square upon lambda square psi. Take this whole term this side, what do we get? Del square psi upon del x square plus 4 pi square upon lambda square psi is equal to 0. This is equation number 2. We mark this equation number 2. I think so far it is clear. So far it is clear. What we have done is just rearrange this equation in this form. Alright. Now what we need to do is, in this equation we need to find out we have to replace the value of lambda square. We need to find out the value of lambda square. What will the value of lambda? 4 pi square is the constant. So what we need in this equation is the value of lambda square. Now how to find this lambda? This we will find with the help of de Broglie principle. What does the de Broglie principle say? According to de Broglie's equation, de Broglie equation, according to de Broglie equation, what do we get? We know that mv is equal to h upon lambda. We know mv is equal to h upon lambda, where m is the mass of the electron, v is the velocity of the moving electron, h is the Planck's constant, and lambda is the wavelength. Now if we square both sides, what do we get? M square v square is equal to h square upon lambda square. Let us mark this equation as number 3. We mark this equation as number 3. From this equation, what do we get? H square upon lambda square is equal to mv square. But again, according to Heisenberg principle, since we are trying to locate the electron, so we cannot predict the velocity exact. We cannot get the exact velocity. So what we need to do? We need some other term which we can easily determine. Which we have to replace this v square. If we replace this lambda square value from here in terms of mass and velocity, but velocity we cannot find, since we are predicting the position here. Exactly, we are trying to locate the electron. In this equation, what is we are doing? We are trying to locate the electron. And according to Heisenberg principle, if you are locating the exact, finding the exact position of the electron, then you cannot predict the exact velocity. So what we need to know, what we need to do is we have to convert this m square v square term into some other term which we can tell with exactness along with the position. So what we need to do is we need to convert this in the energy in terms of total energy or the kinetic energy. So what we need to do is next what we do according to classical theory. According to classical theory, what information we have? We know total energy is equal to kinetic energy plus V, potential energy. Total energy is equal to kinetic energy plus potential energy. This means kinetic energy is equal to E minus V. I can write this. I write this equation number 4. What else we know according to classical theory? What else we know? That kinetic energy is equal to half mv square, right? Just replace this half mv square in this equation. What do we get? Half mv square is equal to E minus V. This implies mv square is equal to mv square is equal to twice of E minus V. Now if we multiply both sides by m, what will do? We multiply both sides by m. What do we get? Multiplying both sides of equation by m, we get m square v square is equal to 2 E minus 2 times E minus V, and m square v square from equation number 3 it is h square upon lambda square. We can replace this by h square upon lambda square is equal to twice of E minus V, or what we can get from here, this implies 1 upon lambda square is equal to 2 upon h square into E minus V. I can write this 2 upon h square into E minus V. Now replace the value of 1 upon lambda square in equation number 2. I hope you have written this part. I am rubbing this part. Now they have get from fifth equation, they replace the value of 1 upon lambda square in equation 2, replacing 1 by lambda square from equation 5 in 3, we get del square psi upon del x square plus 8 pi square m upon h square into e minus v psi is equal to 0. So what do we get? Del square psi by del x square plus 8 pi square m upon h square into e minus psi is equal to 0. This is the Schrodinger wave equation in one dimension. Now we need to generalize this to 3 dimension. The generalized equation will be generalized form in 3D is del square psi by del x square plus del square psi by del z square plus del square psi by del y square plus 8 pi square m upon h square into e minus v psi is equal to 0. So this is the Schrodinger wave equation, and this is how the Schrodinger wave equation can be derived easily. I hope you like my video. You like this video. If you do like it, please don't forget to hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed my channel yet, please do hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell icon to get intimated first about the new and the latest videos that are coming up on this channel. In the follow-up video, we will be discussing about the postulates of quantum mechanics. So postulate of this in more detail, postulates of quantum mechanics, and followed by in the subsequent video we will discuss the solution of this particular Schrodinger wave equation in one dimension and three dimension box, and their application, and we'll also discuss some of the questions that were asked in previous exams based on the solutions of the Schrodinger wave equation on one dimension box and three dimension box. So stay tuned. Thank you.